This past week really felt like a global tug of war. On one end, you had these shocking acts of violence, and on the other, signs of real diplomatic progress. You had huge political changes and wild swings in the tech world. So let's dive in and unpack the key moments that really defined this week of contrasts.
Okay, so here's our plan. We're going to start with a look at some really tough stories about attacks on civilians. Then we'll zoom out to see what's happening in the world's bigger conflicts. After that, we'll get into some major political shakeups, check out the highs and lows of the tech industry, and wrap it all up with a look at where we stand on climate change.
All right, we're starting with a difficult topic. This week saw a series of absolutely brutal attacks that all had one thing in common. They targeted ordinary people just going about their lives, from a holiday party to a university, and the impact was felt on 3 different continents. 15. That's the number of lives that were tragically cut short when 2 gunmen opened fire during a Hanukkah celebration on Sydney's Bondi Beach. Australia's Prime Minister didn't hesitate, immediately calling it what it was, a terrorist attack on the Jewish community.
2. That's how many U.S. Army soldiers, both from Iowa, were killed in central Syria in an attack claimed by ISIS. This was a grim milestone, the first American military deaths in the country in about a year, and just a stark reminder that this threat is far from over.
And again, 2 people were killed when a shooting broke out inside a lecture hall at Brown University. You can just imagine the chaos and fear happening right in the middle of final exams. And here's the thing that really ties this all together. These weren't just random, isolated tragedies. When you look at them side by side, you see this deeply disturbing pattern of violence, striking at the very heart of normal life. A religious celebration, a military patrol, a college campus.
Okay, so let's pull back from those specific attacks and look at the bigger picture of the world's ongoing conflicts. This week, you could really see the gears of both war and diplomacy turning at full speed.
I mean, this slide really shows you the 2 extremes we saw this week. On one side, you've got this real glimmer of hope out of Berlin, with U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators apparently hammering out most of their differences. But at the same time, you have this absolutely devastating reality on the ground in the DR Congo, where rebels took a major city, forcing 200,000 people to flee their home.
And then you have this quote which shows how the tension is just ratcheting up elsewhere. This is Egypt sending its clearest warning yet about the civil war happening right next door in Sudan. They're drawing a line in the sand and signaling they might just have to get involved to stop the country from splintering.
And if you're wondering why Egypt is so worried, well, this definition from the UN says it all. The war and the famine it's caused in Sudan have officially been labeled the single worst humanitarian crisis on the planet this year. Just a catastrophe on a massive scale.
All right, let's shift gears now, moving away from active conflicts to the kind of political decisions that happen far from any battlefield, but are quietly and powerfully reshaping the world for years to come.
So down in Chile, we saw a pretty major political swing. Voters, who are really worried about crime and the economy, elected the far-right candidate, Jose Antonio Kast. And his win is being seen as another sign of this broader shift to the right that's happening across Latin America.
Now take a look at this number, 108 billion euros. That's what Germany is now pledging for its security and defense budget in 2026. And let me be clear, this isn't just a budget increase. This is a massive, historic shift in how Europe thinks about its own security.
And that huge number from Germany, it's really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. You've got NATO setting this ambitious new spending goal for all its members. And you've got this new mission, Operation Eastern Sentry, designed to counter Russian aggression. It's all pointing in one direction, building a Europe that is way more independent and capable of defending itself.
Let's switch from geopolitics to the world of tech. Because, man, this week really gave us a perfect snapshot of the highs and lows of that industry. It's a real tale of 2 very different companies.
I mean, this slide just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have SpaceX just absolutely crushing it, setting a new record for launches and basically owning the space industry. And on the other, you have iRobot, the company that gave us the Roomba, filing for bankruptcy. It's just a reminder of how you can have this spectacular success right next to a really stark cautionary tale about how brutal the market can be.
And for our final section, we see that exact same dynamic, that same story of incredible progress right alongside serious peril, playing out in what is arguably the most important challenge we all face, the future of our planet.
So let's start with some genuinely big, good news. This is a first.
In 2025, for the first time in history, renewables officially overtook coal as the world's #1 source of energy. I mean, that is a monumental shift in how we power everything.
And that wasn't the only win. This year, we also saw deforestation in the Amazon go down. EV sales kept climbing, now making up a fifth of all new cars, and investment in clean energy hit $2 trillion. Crucially, we now have 43 countries that are proving you can grow your economy without growing your emissions. That's huge.
So, with all this good news, all this positive momentum, it all comes down to the one question that really truly matters. Is it enough? Are we moving fast enough?
Well, according to a stunning new report from the UN, the answer is a resounding no. Our global food and fuel systems are still causing $5 billion in damage to the environment. Not a year, not a day, every single hour. The scale of the problem is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
And that's where we leave things this week. What we saw was a snapshot of a world pulled in two directions, a world in conflict and transition, a world of incredible progress and incredible peril happening all at the same time. And the big question is, which one of those forces is going to define the year ahead?